get started. So, hello everyone. Thank you for joining our session. I'm Steve Young. I'm the co-chair of ESIP's Air Quality Cluster, and Beth Huffer is here too, my fellow co-chair. So, hi, Beth. And Allison Mills is our host, kind of keeping an eye on things. And Abel is also with us as our community fellow who's going to be helping out. So that's our team for today. And I am actually going to share my screen and go through kind of I hope this is going to be quick, but just sort of some general opening remarks, if you will. So I'm going to try to kind of blast through these so we have more time for our breakout groups. But since this is kind of an ESIP session on confidence, trust, ethics, we're going to try to kind of take that spin. But our overall use case for air quality and AI is to try to help community members who are sort of new to the world of air quality learn more about it, understand more about it, and kind of get what they can do to protect their health. We've had this ongoing concept of a community air quality toolkit, and we're seeing that the new LLM chat tools have a lot of potential, we think, but also raise some concerns. So just a second on nomenclature. I'm not going to, and I don't pretend to be an expert myself, but a couple of moments on nomenclature. A typical scenario is that there is a corpus of typically text on which a large language model has trained. The LLM is kind of the heart of the platform. And then users are going to interact with something that you could call a dialogue agent. A chat type of experience is probably the most common scenario that we're seeing right now, a la Chat GPT. Some basic considerations that we found, we had some interesting sessions in the ESIP summer meeting back in July. The importance of establishing context during a session with one of these platforms. There's also this concept of working with the platform to specify a persona, to encourage the platform to role play a responsible role rather than a out of control AI, we're going to terminate the humans type of role, which people have played with and done stuff like that. There's the overall concept of prompt engineering as well. So, better ways to prompt the tool to get better responses. So overall, we're going to be exploring how can we create greater confidence and trust in responses from a platform such as ChatGPT, Bing, Bard, whatever. You can think about kind of a continuum of confidence from higher confidence to lower confidence. And so if we think about a higher confidence situation, it might well be a model that was trained on a known, reliable corpus, where you may have provided the corpus on which the model was trained. It could be all open, public domain, fair, compliant. In this kind of a higher confidence scenario, you have minimal risk of hallucinations, hopefully. You could think of the responses as authoritative. You may actually literally own it if you built it, and you will probably face a minimal or at least a lower risk of intellectual property concerns if you provided the corpus, unless you, use people's stuff without permission. However, there are some potential downsides. There's a resource cost if you're going to build your own that might not be trivial. The limited corpus might reduce the opportunities to generate some kind of unanticipated but possibly very useful connections that might otherwise emerge from a session. You may have a less conversational and versatile environment, and it may be challenging for you to keep current with this incredibly rapidly evolving technology that we're all seeing. At the lower confidence end of the spectrum, on the plus side, your environment may generate very useful, unexpected responses. It may be more flexible, may be more adaptive to user prompts. It may not require significant resource expenditures to harness this tool, and it may be constantly incorporating state-of-the-art capabilities, and that might be very attractive to you. However, the downsides at the lower confidence end of the spectrum, you may not know all the details on the corpus on which the model was trained. It may contain unreliable content. It may contain old content. Most people heard that ChatGPT 3.5 was only trained up through, I think it was September 2021. Some of that content in the corpus may have IPR issues. The hallucinations issue could be a real thing. You may get responses that aren't reproducible. The behavior may change in unexpected ways. It's probably not an open environment. It may be very hard to verify the responses that a user is getting to prompts. There may be greater concern about data leakage, that users are going to put things in that leak out that you don't want leaking out. And it may require more astute prompt engineering, at this lower confidence end of the spectrum. So some things just to think about as we move towards breakout sessions. What do we need to tell the users to alert them to limitations of a tool without scaring them off? I think importantly, can the platform directly access reliable data on the web? And I feel like we're seeing a lot of evolution here. Recently, Microsoft, with their partnership with OpenAI, Microsoft Bing is now beginning to, if you are doing a chat session, reach out to the web using Bing and bring back stuff from the web, so you're kind of bypassing the limitations of what the LLM trained on. Can the platform natively provide reliable references or citations? And it looks again like we're seeing some evolution there, for example, with Bard, and I think with what Bing is doing. There's this overall macro thing about the potential fear that users may have, fear, confusion, distrust of the technology, the whole bugaboo that, that AI is going to take over, it's hostile, all that stuff. And how can we keep up with the tech to take advantage of the new opportunities while not getting swamped, maybe? So these are all things maybe to think about. We are going to go into breakout groups, and let me open by saying I'm hoping that these are going to be both learning and teaching events for participants. I am sure we have people who would like to learn more and see some of the tools in action a little bit. I am also sure that we have people here who are very knowledgeable, potentially very familiar with one or more of the tools, who can operate in something of a teaching and showing mode, and that would be great. So don't be shy about sharing your knowledge. I know from many years with ESIP that it's an amazing community, a lot of very knowledgeable, very smart, very committed people, which is great. I will ask each group, we're going to randomly assign 4 groups. We'll ask each group to pick a reporter, or actually a recorder. You may find that one person is comfortable with recording and another person is the extrovert who, would be great for actually presenting what the group found. So please self-select 1 or 2 people for those roles. Please do log notes from your session in the shared document that Allison put in chat up front. If you do find experts in your group and they're willing to lead an exploration with a known platform, consider self-organized, but you might want to have 2 or 3 concurrent sessions within the group. That's up to the group. Default suggestions would be, I think, obviously ChatGPT, Microsoft, Bing, Google, Bard. But please feel free, if you're familiar with another platform, maybe a custom built platform, feel free to say, hey, I'd like to show you what platform X can do. In your sessions, identify the observations that really stood out for you. What did you like about what you saw the platform doing? What problems did you notice, especially problems that go to quality integrity issues? I will ask that you try to stay focused on air quality. I guess I should have said that in these breakout sessions. So try to take a kind of an air quality focus in your work. Did you identify any recommended solutions or workarounds, any general findings? When you report out, plan to tell us what platforms you used, what you felt like your significant observations and findings were, and any other major comments. And I also, there's several documents out there in the folder for this session. And Allison, maybe you could, if you haven't already, throw into chat the link to the actual session folder in which the notes document. You are encouraged to try playing with the platforms, feeding them. I'm not going to try to show this, but you can actually ask a platform to adopt a role or a persona and give it an upfront, role, like you are an expert on air quality. You also are a very skilled communicator, and you are able to explain complicated concepts at the 8th grade reading level, that kind of thing. And you may find that helps bring out better responses from a platform. You could do some A/B testing if your group feels like it, where you have a naive session that doesn't have context established, and a session that does have, a persona has been fed to it, and some additional context information. That's up to you and your group. There's also a document that has a whole bunch of terms and concepts pertaining to air quality. And I believe we're seeing that if you create context by basically literally copying and pasting that into the beginning of a session, that could help focus the responses that you get back during this session. I'd call that a bit of a working hypothesis right now. So that's kind of the hopefully brief opening stage setting. And I'm going to stop here and give people, I hope I haven't created a lot of confusion about our work groups. The groups will be, random assignments. Beth and I will be camping out much of the time in the home room, if you will, but we're going to try to kind of poke in and out of groups silently and see how things are going, but not get in the way unless we see a group with issues. So let me stop here. And if anyone has any questions about the groups or anything else that I've said, please go ahead and raise your hand now, and I'll try to answer those real quickly before we start the groups. Beth, is there anything that you want to say? I'm sorry, I should have given you the opportunity too.
No, Steve, that was.
Oh, echo. All right, cool.
Okay, let me try that again.
Okay.
That was, sorry, you did great. I don't really have anything to add to that at all. Just, if people have questions about, Steve's done a lot of research in this, so, and played around with some of the ideas that he's throwing out at you, and it's been really interesting to see how that impacts the responses from ChatGPT. So we're excited to see how that works for you, trying various constraints and whatnot.
Absolutely. Thanks, Beth. And yeah, please, like I said, if you can do some teaching in your group, don't be shy. If you're in a learning mode, you might ask some really good questions in your group and poke out some really good insights. So don't be shy as a learner either. Do we have any raise hand questions? I don't think I'm seeing anything from what I can see. I'm taking that as a no. So hopefully that's a good sign. So we will, you're going to get the notice and you're going to be popped into a group. And I hope you'll have a lively discussions. We're going to plan for the groups to go for approximately 35 minutes. So you'll have some time to explore, and then we'll bring everyone home and ask each group to report out to the whole body. Allison, do we seem to be okay? Are we ready to do it?
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
we have the groups open. So everyone will just get pushed into whatever breakout room, and I'm here if folks have questions.
Super. So have lively breakout sessions. We'll try to watch and jump in if we see something where we need to intervene. Okay.
And I'll give some time alerts too, so
Perfect.
all can go.
Thanks.
All right. So all of the rooms are open and everyone should be able to, a little dialog box should pop up. And you can
I'm watching. They're all populated. It looks like some people may have bailed, which is not unexpected.
it also says that people leave. It says so-and-so has left when they join the breakout room.
I'm going to wait a little bit before I poke into a room. I don't want to be premature.
Yeah, it looks like room 4 is the smallest right now.
I see that. Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, you're still screen sharing. So if you wanna,
Oh, thank you
that's
for
okay.
that.
I realized
Yes.
I had it set up on my screen, so I didn't fully notice, but
I forgot. I forgot about that.
it looks like there's a really good cruise in each of the groups. There's like a solid uh like an ESIPer who's been here for a long time, a handful of new folks, some very enthusiastic folks. So it looks like a pretty good spread. I think that room 2, fortunately, Shelly Olds is in there, but that's a group that has the most new to ESIP people.
Aha. Okay. Ring. Thank you. Well, welcome back, everyone. I tried to stay out of the way in the sessions, but I am looking forward to hearing what came out of the breakout groups. So we have just under a half hour left. I'm going to ask each group to do approximately a 5-minute report out, if you're willing. And I'm going to suggest we just go down the line in order of work of breakout groups. So if group 1 is willing and able to report, please do it. Group one. Don't be shy. Oh, and I see everyone, or most people are muted right now. I'm seeing. So don't forget to unmute.
Group one, does somebody from our group want to report? I'll do it if nobody else wants to, but I don't want to step on anyone's toes. Unmute yourself, group members.
Yeah, I think whoever took notes for us.
No, me. Okay,
So,
sure. I will be really real quick here. One observation that we made was that we used Bard and we asked it 6 or 7 questions and we got some weird behavior. So it seemed a little buggy maybe. But one observation I had anyway was that it behaves more like a search engine. It's less chatty than Chat GPT. So it would respond to a question and then give us a whole bunch of resources that we could go read. But it didn't do as much summarizing of the information in those resources as Chat GPT does. At least that's kind of what I think. I'm not sure if that's a fair conclusion based on just this session, but we asked some questions about air quality. Karen led that and asked questions about air quality in her neighborhood, which is Cheverly, Maryland, which Bard confused with Chevy Chase a couple of times. But it did provide, some information. But again, really high level and a couple of times we got back kind of this, oh, woe is me, I'm just a poor LLM and I can't answer that. I don't, that's too much for me. So we had, a fairly successful session and, got some answers. Did we get an answer to the diesel trucks causing health problems in Maryland, Karen?
Yes, we actually did, and that was much more detailed than any other.
Okay, so it may have been the way we were asking questions. I'm not sure. But this will be interesting to compile all this maybe in our next working group session, to compile these questions. I did record all of the questions we asked and sort of gave a summary of the type of answer we got. I won't go through them all because it'll take more than 5 minutes, but yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah. So
one thing, if I might interject, is that 30 seconds after it showed us the answer to the diesel trucks question, it sort of doubled back and it wiped it all out. And then it just restated, sorry, I'm a text-based AI and that's outside my capabilities. So it changed its mind midway through its answer, which was really weird. I don't understand why it would start spitting out the information like 3 paragraphs and a bunch of bullet points, and then
right. It's like it got in trouble and said, oops,
that's
never mind.
That's very interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, well, it may well point to, the whole prompt engineering thing, and it's possible that you were beginning. I'm more familiar with the Chat GPT behavior, but it's possible that you were starting to create more context during the course of the session, such that it was able to give you a better response on the diesel question, but that sounds like really weird that it suddenly backtracked like that. That's interesting.
There was one other quickie.
Yeah.
I asked it to look up our purpleair.com information, which is available online, and that's a map. And I gave it, Cheverly, Maryland, and it came back and said, I can't do that because I'm text-based. So it really felt like, if you wanted an integration of graphical or diagrammatic information, that it's going to be really hard for it to deal with something like that.
Interesting. Cool. Okay. Thanks. Let's go to group 2, please. Group 2.
I could start and hopefully people could jump in. So our group 2, sorry, my screen is over there, so I'll move this over here. So we noticed similar stuff as group 1 said. We took a different spin and kind of went in our own little rabbit hole, which was very fun. I'm sure everyone agrees. So we started out with basically identifying that government employees can't really use AI. So we had one person doing the AI stuff, one person taking the notes. And none of us really know AI very well or have used the system as much. We just kind of are learning and getting used to it. So we did ask about like air quality in Denver. Huh? Yes? Okay. We did ask about air quality in Denver. We asked some of the questions that we did get. We did it both in Bard and in ChatGPT. And ChatGPT is the one we started first. And basically we found that they give you a lot of information, but a lot of information that ChatGPT is pulling from, the difference was that compared to Bard was that they give you older information. So citations that we asked for will give you information from 2014 or 2012 citations, which are accurate. They are actual real manuscripts. But we identify maybe that's because of paywall or a different, because it's been, like enough time since time has passed for it to be released. And however, Bard did, when you asked about Denver air quality, give us the most accurate information, quote unquote, accurate information or real-time information from today about 2023. You can see it in our notes. And then we kind of went kind of fun and we asked about asking for code about using Open Weather app, which is something that ChatGPT actually recommended for an API use, about getting a Panda frame, data frame. And that gave us the code. And we identified that like, it looks like it works. And the cool thing was we asked, how do you cite it? And they gave us this kind of answer about how to cite it, and actually did give us a citation on how to cite the ChatGPT code. Anyway, you could read about that. Then the best fun part was we went around and played with asking ChatGPT to give us music or like lyrics to Open Air Quality in Lin-Manuel Miranda, and just seeing what it could actually do. And playing around with this kind of like more silly but interesting and kind of fun way to identify how to use ChatGPT or Bard. Yep, that's it.
Cool.
That's
Cool.
awesome, you guys.
You should show the album cover.
Oh
that's
yeah.
generated.
Is everyone,
Oh.
can you guys everyone see it or no? I could share mine. Just
Songs for a cleaner tomorrow. I love it.
Yeah. It's in the notes if you guys can't see it right now. Sorry, I'm
Well,
trying. Yeah.
I mean, when you think about communicating to broader audiences and how do you reach some audiences that might not pay attention otherwise, that's pretty cool. Well, thank you for that report out. And I'm glad you had some fun. I should have said that up front that, you're allowed to have fun in these sessions, and I forgot to say it, but cool. All right. Group 3. Can you do your report out, please? Like I said before, don't be shy.
I'll do it if no one else wants to, but does someone else from group 3 want to report out? Danny,
Oh.
do you want to report out?
Danny said, go for it, Carla.
Okay. All right. Well, we kind of started with a train of thought of asking it to tell us things like, how can you judge air quality, whatever it is. A lot of those responses were fact-based and they seemed to be fairly accurate. And then we tried to switch to more, reasoning-based things. We asked it several times to try and get it to do a yes or no answer on some of these things. It would say, I cannot answer yes or no, but I can give you, a set of factors of what you should do about air quality. So it's really interesting that it wouldn't step up to that yes or no. Then we asked it to, if you wanted to vote on a 50% reduction, you're a town. Now, first we asked it to be an expert, an air quality expert. Then we decided to put it into a different lens. You are a town council member. Would you vote for a 50% reduction? And we asked it flat out. As a town council member, I do not have the ability to make that judgment. So like it just would not do that. But in the end, Danny had a brilliant idea. write a persuasive essay to convince your town members that air quality is important. That it did do a fairly decent job on, but it used some of the information we had given it before. So it said, I'd like to reduce it 50%, which we didn't say anything about that in that question, but it had pulled that from the other questions. So we didn't have enough time to really check the complete validity of that that very last response, the persuasive letter, but it looked like it pulled a lot of the previous, here's
Yes.
the reasons why you should be worrying about air quality, blah, blah, blah. But it was pretty fascinating. I don't know if anybody else in the group wants to add something to that in their insights. I wanted to have it reason. Since I'm an educator, I was really interested. Can you make Chat GPT say why this is important or reason? And we probably the persuasive essay is the closest we got to it. I don't know.
Thanks, Carla. That's really interesting, and that kind of further validates, at least with Chat GPT, this phenomenon that it does build on context that's established in a conversation with it, and that's sort of a working hypothesis I think we're toying with, that we could potentially pre-populate a conversation with Chat GPT to sort of prep it to be ready for lay person community members to ask air quality questions and get better answers, more reliable, more trustworthy answers if we've done some pre-populating, because you can share a conversation so that someone else can pick it up and kind of roll with the thread that's already been established. So that's very interesting. Thank you. Okay, group 4, our final group. Can you do your report out, please? I saw you unmute, Bob.
Oh, maybe we were, I thought we were group 5.
No, we were group 4, Ken, and I was about to say, hey, Ken, you got this.
Okay, yeah,
The
I got
number,
it.
the number doesn't matter. It's the content that.
It's weird because it said breakout group 5 in the top of our session. Anyway,
Huh.
Yeah, when we got into our breakout group, and in the first few minutes we cured cancer, we ended world hunger, and we brought peace to the land. And
I expected no less.
yeah, and then we got serious and started working on the task here. Actually, we were almost really stuck. There were 4 of us, all at government agencies, and none of us are allowed to run these tools directly on our government computers. And then, fortunately, James Gallagher joined in a little bit late and saved the day, and brought an example. So we didn't really follow the air quality theme. Sorry, apologies. But James had an example already up on writing. Using Google Bard to write some Python code. It's to basically do like a folder cleanup sort of task. Take old files and move them from one place to another. And we talked through the example of that, starting, like looking at it as standalone code, and it seemed to work pretty well. As things got more complicated, though, it was clear you'd have to like really dive into and do more review, which suggested that using this, you might break things up, particularly if you're going to be using it to help you write code. You might break it up into smaller tasks and have it sort of do chunks at a time for you. But it did a nice job of like taking the standalone script and breaking it or putting it into a callable function, including adding comments and how to use the function and things like that. And then also writing unit tests for the function. So that was kind of cool. The discussion led us to talk about another tool James had used, which was GitHub Copilot, which essentially does like an autocomplete. As you're writing your code, it can essentially autocomplete based on, like, if we understand it, like learning your coding patterns and following some of your behavior. So it's a little bit more targeted to you, which led us to some other conversations about the potential value in some of these large language models. May not really be on the ones that are sort of trained on the wilds of the internet with all of the less than solid information out there. I'm trying to put it nicely, but instead, like building more dedicated ones that are, that are harvesting and training on more rigorous, like documented, vetted, rigorous information, and are kind of tailored to a specific purpose. And we talked about some of the ones that we were thinking about doing within, like our agencies, like within NOAA, about maybe eventually building a tool that just harvests our graph on everything we know about the data in the archive and that we've really carefully vetted, and then use it to build a tool to help people find and use and understand that information, using a large language model. So that's kind of the essence. Anybody else from group 4/5 want to chime in and add anything I missed?
Well, hearing none, thank you, Ken, and thanks to all of the groups for those report outs. What I'm hearing is some good observations that I think will be informative for us, and hopefully some good learning also took place for some of you. Some of you, it sounds like maybe hadn't really had a chance to see some of these things in action before. So if this was an opportunity to learn, that's great. And similarly, the conveying of technical knowledge is also wonderful. That took place at least in some of the groups. So
Steve, I want to propose that we all learn the song that Bard wrote. These are some amazing bleak songs here.
yeah, you're looking at it, Beth.
I think for the summer meeting, we should perform some of these songs.
If any of you were in our unconference session in the summer ESIP meeting, we did have ChatGPT write an ESIP 25th anniversary song lyric for us. So that's floating out there somewhere. Oh yeah, we also had a pretty cool haiku that was generated in that session. So you definitely could have fun, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. I think there are so many interesting themes that I'm seeing poking around the literature, and the story of my life, I never have enough time to dig into stuff the way I want to, but that there's some very interesting papers out that talk about kind of creating, I want to say adversarial, but more than one persona, if you will, that then kind of, this isn't really the right term, but argue with each other, and maybe getting a little bit closer to Carla talking about reasoning, that there's some fascinating ways that you can fiddle with the off-the-shelf tools that can give you arguably better, more reliable, higher confidence responses. So for anyone who's kind of had their interest piqued, the literature has some really interesting stuff. But it's also, for me, it's mind-boggling how fast the space is changing. It's like, okay, well, whatever is true this month, it's already going to be overtaken next month, which is sort of a daunting, it's cool, but it's also daunting to see the pace of change. Let me open it up and invite anyone, open mic. Does anyone have anything, like a brainwave that you've had, or a burning question that has arisen in your mind, as you've gone through today's session? Feel free to raise your hand. Also, totally encourage random thoughts, random ideas. Please put them in chat or add them to the notes document, or do both, and we'll be harvesting all of those inputs. Anyone Anyone got anything that you'd like to toss out here? Like I keep saying, don't be shy.
Well, I can't find the raise hand function in the browser version of this.
Oh my goodness, go
but-
ahead, Bob. Yeah.
But I'll just make this observation. I mean, over 30 years of watching innovation in IT, almost all of the disruptive technologies in the past 20 years have required significant infrastructure upgrades, be it bandwidth, big pipes built across the country, even cloud required build out of massive data centers. AI doesn't require this. What we're seeing with AI ML doesn't seem to require that. The infrastructure is already in place. So the pace of advancement's just going to be skyrocketing fast.
That's fascinating observation, Bob. And yeah, like I sort of like use as paperweights Raspberry Pis, and I keep seeing stuff about how well, you can run some of this stuff on your Raspberry Pi. to your point, it's like, holy cow, this really is. It's kind of a different world. At the same time, with the large LLMs, everything that I've seen to train the really huge ones like ChatGPT does require a lot of computational power for the training part. But once you've got something trained, you could do a lot without needing that heavy infrastructure. Any other thoughts? I'm glad to see I'm glad to see some chat activity. Carla.
So I think this is a very interesting intersection with big data. And, we have these huge data sets now, citizen science, all these things that have been coming together that really help. My husband came back from a trip from South Africa and went through, your usual screening in the airport. He didn't even have to take out his passport. He went through some photo recognition thing and they said, "You're good to go, Joe McAuliffe." And he was in shock. Like, it's, there's a scan of a bazillion photos apparently of his face and it can recognize that. So I think it's fascinating. And I do think that the best part of this is if we can offload all those identification tasks, and human beings are focused on the higher order reasoning. So what does this mean when you're looking at a data set? I think ChatGPT does these AI do a somewhat decent job at that, but there's still some other higher order level that requires human beings to think deeply and analyze deeply. And that's where we should be spending our time. So I think it's a positive.
I certainly personally heartily agree with you, Carla. And yeah, I mean, this model of humans sort of collaborating with AI tools seems to be pretty popular right now. And what I've seen is a tool might give you an unexpected kind of conjunction of two things that you would never have thought of on your own, that might stimulate your own creative thinking. Like, whoa, I never would have thought to put A and B together like that before. But there's still this huge role for humans, for our human creativity and reasoning, I think. And there are so many cautionary notes, about the potential for misuse of the technologies, like the facial recognition. We've seen very scary use cases also. Like, it's great the way that worked for your husband, but we know there's some terrifying use cases too. And there's, all of the issues about bias in training sets, and that's a whole topic in itself. But it's a known, very worrying concern. And the default, the tendency we heard in the opening plenary speaker, the white male, the default to oh, it's a white male, you know, like the image generation things, some very troubling issues that need to be confronted. Well, listen, we're coming up to the end of this session, and I like to end on time, start on time and end on time. So thank you so much, everyone. I think this went really well. I'm very happy. I hope you feel like you got some good usefulness out of it. I'm looking forward to our kind of post-processing of all of the inputs that we got and what we're able to do with it. So unless anyone has a final parting shot, I think we can close out. So thanks. Take care. Be safe. Enjoy the rest of our ESIP meeting, and I'll be seeing some of you around, and hopefully I'll see a bunch of you in real life this summer in Asheville.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, folks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.